What exactly is your shadow and why should you love it? Hi, I'm Beth Strathman. Welcome back to Profanely Sacred, a channel dedicated to your personal growth and development. Here you'll explore content about uncovering more of your authentic self and pursuing the truth and meaning of your life. Before we get into today's content, be sure to subscribe to this channel and click on the bell so that you don't miss any of my newest videos. So what is your shadow? Your shadow contains all of the parts of yourself that you have disowned. You put traits and thoughts deep inside, you hid them away, you turned your eye and you just forgot about them basically, because you thought they were weaknesses and that you weren't a good person or you weren't worthy if you showed them. They aren't necessarily negative traits, but growing up in your family and in your particular society or culture, the message was that if you behaved this way, or if you thought this way, that was unacceptable and it made you not a good person. So you hid them away because of a value judgment made by somebody else. In essence, it was harder for people to deal with that kind of behavior from a child your age, or you just somehow perceived that they thought you were difficult to deal with. And so you suppressed that behavior or those thoughts in order to be accepted into your family and into society. It's not necessarily a conscious thought process maybe that you went through. You just learned that when you did something, you got a certain response that you didn't necessarily think was good. So what these shadow traits can be things like being independent, having a sensitive nature, being a control freak, being arrogant, or just not allowing yourself to express a number of different emotions. So there are many things that could be part of your shadow, and everybody has a little different shadow that they deal with. The thing about your shadow is that if you don't acknowledge the traits and characteristics that are a part of your shadow, you'll continue to act them out, mostly unconsciously. I mean, most of us don't understand our shadow. We don't see it, but other people do. And if you continue to act out these traits that you don't know that you don't have control over them, and you act them out in the most extreme and unacceptable ways, and they'll hold you back. Everyone else can see it plain as day, as I told you, but unbelievably, you don't see them oftentimes, or you won't admit to them, even if you have an inkling that your behavior maybe crossed a line in a certain situation. So, why should you love your shadow? When you do learn more about your shadow and explore it and get real with yourself about it, you'll realize that there are many benefits to this. And generally, the overarching benefit is that recognizing and learning to embrace your shadow and make it a part of you is one of the most fruitful and powerful ways to become a better person. It makes you be a more mature person too. So how so? How do I become a better person? By looking at these shadow traits, figuring out what they are, and learning to make them a part of myself. Well, first of all, you'll actually see that in each one of the traits or characteristics or thought processes that are part of your shadow, there's actually a benefit to them. There's a gift in each one of them. They are helpful. So everything that we express as humans is helpful. It's just that when we express them along the continuum from expressing them in a very acceptable way all the way up to expressing them in a very unacceptable way, there is a benefit to them. For example, anger. Anger is really about saying, you've crossed my boundaries, right? You did something that's not acceptable to me, and I'm going to show it to you, right? So we get angry when we do that. We express anger. Or we talked earlier, or I mentioned earlier about being a sensitive person. right? Some people may describe you as overly sensitive, but being sensitive is a good thing. Being sensitive shows that you're in tune with what other people feel, you're in tune with your own feelings, and that you're able to express in a certain way that whatever somebody did or said was not fair or was not a good thing. It's kind of related to anger, it seems, there. So everything, even arrogance, arrogance, is not a great trait. We think of it as a negative trait. But when you're arrogant, the gift of that is that on some level, you recognize something of value in yourself that maybe other people don't realize, or that you could admit to your strengths and that you have capabilities in yourself. If you go overboard, then you're expressing it in a way that is not acceptable. But when you can say, yes, sometimes I am arrogant, all of a sudden you're starting to realize that about yourself, and you're going to start to be more aware of how you're coming across to people when they say you're arrogant, okay? When really it's just saying, no, I have a capability. Let me help you with this. I can use this capability to improve a situation. So I mentioned earlier rebelliousness. When you think about little kids and the messages that they get when they're putting their feet down in a certain situation and saying, no, I'm not going to do it. What they're doing is they're asserting their own individuality. They're saying, I know my own mind. I think I do in this situation. And no, I don't stand for this, right? That just shows a good self-awareness and an ability to discern what's right for them and what's not right for them. Unfortunately, when children act that way, particularly in their 2s and 3s, when you have the terrible 2s and 3s, they're under the control of their parents, and the parents punish that rebelliousness because it's cramping the parent's style more than anything else, right? And they do need to, kids do need to learn some obedience, but it says that in the future, I don't accept people's authority just because they're bigger than me. That's a good thing. Think about it as an adult. You want adults to think for themselves and to know what works for them and not just kowtow to an authority figure, right? So that's the good thing about rebelliousness. The point is that all of those traits in your shadow, they are a gift and they have a positive aspect to them that are actually helpful to you as an individual. Another reason why you should love your shadow is because it helps you develop compassion, not only for yourself, but for others. So when you start to delve into your shadow and learn more about these traits that you have that have been deemed unacceptable in the past, and you learn that they're okay, and there are times and places to express them in acceptable and beneficial ways, then you're learning that everybody has these traits inside of them, and it just expands the compassion that you have for yourself to say, hey, I'm not such a bad person. Yes, sometimes I don't do it. I don't behave in the right way when I express these traits, but I can still have them be a part of myself and say that's okay, and learn to express them in more acceptable ways. And you'll have compassion for other people because you'll realize you've been through it. Everybody has a shadow, and that when people are expressing their shadows, even if they don't know it, you can go, there's more to this person than just what I'm seeing right now in this situation where they're not expressing themselves in the best light. Another reason that you should love your shadow is that it rounds out how you can express yourself. You're more authentic, right? So when you can express the full range of all these characteristics, you're more of yourself. You're not trying to suppress aspects of yourself. And it takes the intensity out of how you express these so-called negative traits that are in your shadow. So for example, when you're triggered, when somebody really hits a soft spot of yours that really just sets you off, because you're aware of that propensity in you, you can automatically, just through that awareness, go, okay, this is bringing out my arrogance. I'm going to be more deliberate and intentional about how I handle this situation or express myself in this situation, so that people understand I'm not just thinking that I'm the best of the best. I'm just really aware that I have a strength here and I can be of benefit in this situation. So you're therefore able to express the shadow trait in a more beneficial way. And finally, another reason to love your shadow is that it's good for your physical, psychological, and emotional health. How so? Well, it's beneficial in that you are now able to confront these suppressed emotions and experiences that you've had up to this point in your life that you've tried to ignore. So what tends to happen is when you're unaware of your shadow traits, even though everybody else can see them, when you express them, you're just expressing them outwardly in the world. So you're bringing out your worst behavior and throwing it out there for all to see. So these negative instincts and behaviors don't just disappear because we suppress them. Rather, we lose contact. Well, we don't consciously use them and access them, and they're unearthed in these indirect ways. So this may be through various neuroses, psychological conditions, psychiatric conditions, or even physical health problems. So shadow works brings these feelings and experiences into our consciousness so that we can address them and accept them. So those are some reasons why you should learn to love your shadow. If you like this video, be sure to give me a thumbs up, share this video with others. And if you're interested in furthering your own personal growth and development, go to my website, profanelysacred.com. There I have some blog posts that can help you, and look for events that are coming up that you can join me in as we all further our own personal development and growth. Thanks for watching.